How's it going, folks? My name is Garrett. I'm the captain of the sinking ship that I like to call the Sharkfin Gaming channel. And this is going to be the first of probably many videos that I'm planning on doing where these are basically going to be campaign diaries. And as you can see, it's no editing done. It's completely raw video because, once again, I do not have any video editing software to be able to use. So, there's that. There's that. Basically, this video is going to be detailing a new campaign diary. This is going to be a campaign diary for the very first campaign that I've decided to be a dungeon master for. And for those wondering, yes, this is in regards to Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. You probably noticed so far on my channel that I've got a few videos about the books of D&D 5e. So on this past week, I had elected to run my first D&D campaign. This is my very first experience as a dungeon master. So I kind of want to chronicle everything that happens as far as I remember it, and just kind of like talk about like my motivations and what exactly I'm expecting. This video might be caught on by my D&D group, and if that's the case, you guys are... It's Caskell, Kane, Amari, Drake, and Crow Attack. If you guys are watching this video, please go ahead and shut it off because I'm going to be spoiling a lot of stuff in this video. But mainly this is also kind of like a video by video guide of Dragon of Icespire Peak and how I've run it. And yes, the adventure that I have elected to run is the Dragon of Icespire Peak, and this is the new adventure that comes with the Essentials Kit. The reason why I decided I wanted to run with that is because, like, I had a choice between doing that or doing Lost Mine of Phandelver as my first experience. It's probably blurry on my left, over my left shoulder here, but you can also see that I have Curse of Strahd or Ghost of Saltmarsh, which would have been fantastic starting adventures for me to do, and I would have been happy doing those as well. But being that I have the Essentials Kit, I kind of wanted to run through it just to see what it was like. And once again, this is my very first experience as a dungeon master. So if you have not played Dragon of Icespire Peak, if you're a player and you haven't played Dragon of Icespire Peak yet, go ahead and shut off this video. If you don't care about spoilers, then absolutely I welcome you to watch the video. So once again, just to reiterate, this is my very first experience as a dungeon master. I take a lot of inspiration from watching Matthew Mercer in Critical Role, and also from Matt Colville's running the game series. I've also watched a few of his streams where he played the chain, but that's about it. Most of my experience DMing has just been through observation of other DMs. So I kind of base my own style around what other GMs do. But basically, on to the campaign itself, because this is going to be the whole meat of the video. Is just going to be me talking about exactly what happened in my campaign, how the module was expected to run it, and how I run it. So right off the bat, the first thing that I kind of adjusted from what the module does is I kind of reevaluated the character introductions. Now, the Dragon of Icespire Peak module doesn't exactly give you like a full role-played out introduction for the campaign to introduce the characters into their hooks. It basically just gives you a written blurb, just talking about like what the town is and where it is and what it's like, where it's placed in regards to the whole setting of the campaign. So right off the bat, it is kind of difficult to bring your characters in as a hook. So what I did was I did a layered introduction. I introduced my first three characters, who are a half drow paladin who is loyal to Lathander, a half-elf ranger who was exiled from his home because he was betrayed by his betrothed, and when he adventures, he sends back money to his younger sister to continue her schooling. And the last of the three characters is a half-orc barbarian who was a former Blood Arena gladiator from Calamshite. So they start off on a wagon traveling from Neverwinter to en route to Phandalin. And the caravan, it's a merchant caravan that drops them off right at the Tribord Trail, because the caravan is moving southward towards Baldur's Gate or Waterdeep, any of those towns. So that they introduce their own characters there. They get off the wagon and they start proceeding towards Phandalin. I don't give them any encounters because, once again, it's the first three characters of a party of 5. So I'm not going to introduce any encounters just yet to bring a little bit of a if I run this campaign again and I don't do the layered introduction, then I will likely give them an encounter for their first for like right off the bat. They're traveling to Phandalin and they run into a party of goblins or orcs or anything like that. So and just layer the just kind of balance the encounter so that it's not too difficult for them at first level. Although I'll get to that in just a little bit, because it's not difficult for a party of 5 first level characters. So I'll get to that in just a moment. They arrive in Phandalin around noon. If I'm going to go off times, because I actually care about this stuff, they arrived on the 10th day of Mirkul, the 5th month of the Forgotten Realms calendar, which is going to be in the first ride of Mirkul. They arrive in Phandalin on that day at noon, so it's around lunchtime. It's around meal times for just about everyone in town, so everyone's starting to congregate in and around the taverns if they're not at home. But there's a particular gathering kind of collected outside of the tavern, in the middle of which is our 4th character, who is a human monk with black spiky hair and an orange and like muted orange monk's vestments. If you don't already know the reference, then, well, it's pretty easy to catch, honestly. So they meet this character, and they introduce themselves once again. So the four party members are now at the very least familiar with one another, and they head into the tavern to get something to eat and maybe catch up on the local gossip and see what's going on. This is where they meet the 5th character, while they're also conversing with like the barmaid, while they're also conversing with the innkeeper and some of the serving waiters and waitresses. We introduce our 5th character, and this character is the only character of this campaign who actually has a legitimate hook that ties into the campaign itself. That ties into the adventure. Now, huge spoilers. Once again, if you have not played Dragon of Icespire Peak, please, I'll leave a timestamp. Please skip ahead to that point in the video, because this right here is going to be massive spoilers for the campaign. And if you're one of my players, particularly if you're one of my players, please shut off this video. For one, I don't want to spoil anything on these in this campaign for anyone. So, and I will know if you're metagaming this information. So, basically, the Dragon of Icespire Peak details an encounter where the player characters, upon learning these clues, they arrive. First and foremost, they arrive at a mansion in which there are a bunch of orcs and half-orcs kind of gathered around. Anchorites of Talos, I think they were. Or they're the cultists of Talos, pretty much. A primal deity. Or a deity who revels in chaos. When the players drive them out of this mansion, they follow them to an area called the Circle of Thunder, atop which is sort of like a Stonehenge at the top of a hill. This is where some of the Anchorites of Talos are in the act of summoning a primal boar. What was his name again? I think it was Gorthok the Thunderboar. This player who the 5th player who I introduce, who is already sitting in the tavern, he's a hermit who has left his seclusion due to a discovery. The discovery was a vision of Gorthok, the Thunderboar, who is a primal boar made of condensed light, basically covered in lightning. essentially. So he's a large monster. He's a gigantic monstrosity. He's basically a god to these orcs. So that's that's the only character who has an actual hook into this campaign. He comes out of seclusion to search for help, to make sure that if his vision is true, that the boar is never summoned, or the boar is dispatched when he is summoned. So that's why he's in Phandalin looking for a group of adventurers capable to take up that task. That's an encounter that's reserved for way later in the campaign. So until then, the player characters are going to be taking up certain jobs around the area. The Dragon of Icespire Peak adventure kind of details out how you can lead them into certain areas that are not linked to quests, but the primary method of them getting anywhere in this campaign is by taking jobs from the job board. And the adventure details that you take 3 jobs at a time, but you can complete 2. The third one doesn't merit any reward. You can complete 2. The third one doesn't merit any rewards. Because each quest, after you complete them, as long as you complete the quest details, you earn a level up. So this is a milestone-based campaign. There's no experience or anything like that. So even if your party faces in a difficult encounter, it is up to you as the DM to reserve the level ups for after they complete the quests. So it doesn't matter how much EXP they earn, they always get a level up after they complete a quest until they reach 3rd level, at which point they will not earn any rewards from completing the 3rd of the starting quests. Once they complete 2 of the quests, they are given 3 additional quests, which allow them to continue earning their levels. With these 3 additional quests, and then I believe, they complete 2 of them, once again, to get up to... Yeah, once they get up to 4th level, basically, they can take up a new quest, and I think the last of these 3 quests kind of lead in to the penultimate encounter with the dragon, who's involved in the cover. So the dragon is Cryovane. He is terrorizing the frontier, or at least the area around the Sword Mountains. There's also a chance of running into him as a random encounter. I won't spoil anything about that. Basically, the DM has to roll for it. And there's a table that's provided that basically gives you the details on where he ends up. And if he ends up where the party is, he's basically hovering overhead, looking for food. And if he spots the party, he does descend to come and confront the party. He does descend to come down and confront the party. And how you handle that from there is entirely up to the GM. Is entirely up to the DM. So there's that. Moving on to describing what the characters are doing at this point. Everyone is gathered in the tavern. They're getting their meals. They're, getting the rumors of the town, learning about the area, and trying to figure out what they want to do next. Here's actually, I think, probably one of the biggest mistakes that I made on Friday when I was running this. I had the innkeeper kind of give off all the information as to what the players can do next. Actually, I don't really think that's much of a mistake, as I think that's what you're supposed to be doing. But the adventure guide basically expects that the players will know to go to the job board to take up one of those quests, or take up those quests and be able to take care of them afterwards without much explanation. But I figured that it was good roleplay, because they were pretty much enjoying themselves just interacting with the tavern patrons. The serving girl who brought them food, the half-orc was actually hitting on her. And the half-orc is a bit of a fish out of water story, where they're from a society that values wealth above all else, and they also take part in the usual vices, although more so than people up in the frontier of the north. The half-orc is from Kalimshite, and she was a blood arena gladiator who was released from servitude and just basically went off to look for excitement of her own. While we were doing this interaction, she was actually propositioning one of the serving girls I didn't describe the serving girl. I just let them know that she was a human female who works in the tavern. The half orc barbarian was propositioning her for she actually asked at first if there was a harem in town, or a place that she can collect a harem. She's not focused on the sexual aspects of things, so which is what I'm thankful for. This player is a really damn good role player though, and that's just the biggest compliment that I will give them right now. But we didn't dwell on it all too much. They didn't focus on it. Their character was just expressing disappointment that there's no place where they can partake in the pleasures of the flesh. So that's perfect role playing. Honestly, I love when players get into their characters like that, because I like doing that myself. I expect that as a first time DM. I expect that out of all my players. So they're finally led to go to the job board in Phandalin to take a quest, and the tavern owner actually kind of gave them a hook where the one player is a folk hero who has the rustic hospitality trait. So with the rustic hospitality, the tavern keep basically told him that if he went to go check to make sure that the midwife of the town was safe, because he owes the midwife a favor, as long as he knew that the midwife was safe, he would be able to provide free lodging for the adventuring party that night. So that was their hook, to one, to earn money, and then two, to get free rooms for the night, because they were probably going to need it. I wouldn't say they spent a lot of gold, but they did spend some coin at the tavern. So they go and take the first quest. They do take all 3 quests, but they go on the first one, which is a simple one monster encounter that takes place in Umbrage Hill, which is to the southeast of Phandalin. As soon as they arrive, they notice that there's a manticore actually trying to break into the front of the windmill that is situated on top of this hill. And the midwife that they were sent to rescue kind of crashes the window open and yells out to the party, could you help me? Could you help me? Basically. So they initiate the encounter. And I think I didn't really do a very good job I didn't really do anything to explain that this creature, although it was viciously trying to break down the door, is sentient and not civilized, but spoke like civilized people, at least as close to one as a monster can get. They went right for the combat encounter, which is not a bad thing. But keep in mind, this is a party of level 5 adventurers facing off against the challenge rating 3 monster. So I don't think the guide was expecting them to be able to defeat it. It did include a blurb if the party did defeat it. It basically, there's nothing that changes. But if the party managed to convince the Manticore to leave, if they offered anything that was worth the amount of gold and food that it was trying to collect, or anything similar, the Manticore does leave. There's a chance that the Manticore would come back later on, though, with a mate. And that would cause issues for the party if they ever decided to come back, because this acolyte, this midwife was going to be their only source of healing potions for this adventure. So, they fought the Manticore because I didn't really give them very many options as to what they can do. I don't want to stress ahead of time that they have every opportunity to not initiate combat. I think the next quest that they're going to do, it depends on what it is. I'll have to figure it out the next time we do it. The next time we get together, which is going to be next Friday at 8:30. But they passed through the encounter within 3 turns. I kind of made the mistake of not having the opening salvo with the Manticore using the multi-attack trait, which the Manticore is able to strike with up to 3 attacks, with a bite, with its claw, or with the tail swipe, or with its tail barbs. So food for thought for those of you who are new DMs who have no idea what a Manticore is. So But they complete the encounter, and it actually was not very hard for them. The druid almost got taken out, but the Manticore managed to deal just enough damage to bring him down to 1 HP. So there was that. But they kill the Manticore just as it was trying to escape. The half orc actually swung her axe swung her longsword to just knock it out of the sky. And they were able to take it down with relative ease. So that's kind of something that I have to make sure of for the next time, is that if there's a combat encounter, I need to make it a little bit more exciting and a little bit more challenging as well. But this is only the first encounter, so and they're a party of first level adventurers. So a challenge rating 3 monster at level 1 at first level, not really all too bad. So they rescue the midwife, and the module actually calls for the midwife to be extremely stubborn in leaving her home. And I tried to roleplay that. I tried to convey that, but I didn't want to force them into believing. That she couldn't be convinced, because I didn't want to railroad them in that way. So so after maybe about 15 minutes of talking to her, it was not until the half orc rolled a persuasion check and basically talked to the midwife about like the dangers of living out here alone with a dragon flying overhead. Although the midwife tried to stand her ground as much as possible, she eventually relents and chooses to travel back to town with the party. They were originally planning on camping there overnight, but it wasn't exactly like late at night just yet, so they had enough time to go back into town. And by the time they arrived back in town, it was nighttime, so they were able to recuperate and go and get some sleep. Not before getting the reward of 25 gold pieces from the town master, who is a coward and hides in his house pretty much all day because of the dragon. So that was the first event. So that was the first session as a DM. That was my first session as a DM. The party does level up after completion of the quest. So now they're second level adventurers and they're about to go on their second quest on this Friday. So I'm actually really excited about that. This was my first experience at DMing, and I'm actually really happy. I was actually really happy, and I had a lot of fun because my players seemed like they had a lot of fun, and they even told me right after we completed that they were actually very impressed with how I handled the whole thing as a first timer. Like to them, it's like I gave them the impression that even though I'm a first timer, it didn't seem like it was my first time. Like I had a natural knack for it, and I was very happy to hear that from them, because it's a first time DM who their players feel like they did a really good job. Like, I'm not trying to stroke my own ego here. I'm just gonna stop that because I'm putting words into their mouths that I'd much rather hear from them directly. So, but that's the first session of Dragon of Icespire Peak. It was a 3.5 hour long session, so it wasn't really that long, but they were given enough time to be able to complete one encounter, and they did it relatively quick too. I was actually really surprised. Granted, it was a 1 monster encounter of a challenge rating 3 monster that a party of 5 could take out with no issues whatsoever. The druid almost died because the druid had like 10 HP. So but yeah, that's the first session. This is basically, now we go into like my thoughts and how I feel like I could have handled it better, or like what I was most impressed by or like what I was not expecting when I started playing. And honestly, the session kind of went how I expected it to go. I was not expecting them to take out the Manticore as quickly as possible. I'm probably going to have to start balancing encounters in the future to make sure that it's not that easy. Certain like quest locations in this book do describe like what changes if the party is higher level, or depending on how many party members there are. I'm excited to know like what path they're going to take next, because the remaining 2 quests are really big areas that they can go to. One of them is a Dormant Excavation, where they're tasked with making sure that the two dwarves that are out there prospecting and digging up these ruins are at least aware that there's a dragon, and once they are, the dwarves will then ask the party members if they want to help them clear the mines of certain monsters. So, there's that. And if they spend enough time in the mines, they actually fight a group of orcs when they come out. So that's very exciting. Once again, if you're one of my players, don't remember that. Don't metagame that information. But yeah, I mean, that was my first session, and I was really happy with how it ended. Really pleased with how it went. My players said that they had a really good time, although I think that they're only I would think that they're only saying that because they're being nice, but I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. So, this module is great for first time DMs. It does give you more than enough information for you to know. Plus, when you couple it with the Essentials Kit rulebook, actually, here's something that I did want to discuss with this. I just had a realization. Now, these are not first-time players. Most of them have been playing for years at this point. One of them has only recently been running another campaign or two. So he doesn't really have a whole lot of experience. So they don't really have a whole lot of experience with Dungeons and Dragons. So I gave them the option of either using the D&D basic rules or to use a player's handbook. We were originally going to be doing this in Fantasy Grounds. We chose to do this in Roll20 because Roll20 was a lot easier to understand. I might elect to go back to Fantasy Grounds because it's actually not really all that hard. It just takes a little bit of getting used to. But I might go back to Fantasy Grounds because I'm paying $10 for it, so definitely. But yeah, it was a really smooth session. I was actually really impressed with how it ended up. I can't wait to get back to it. I'm actually legitimately excited to DM the second session. I know for a lot of DMs, if you keep doing it consistently, you kind of get burned out, which is not so much a problem. But I have confidence that if I decide I want to take a short break from DMing, I would have someone who would be more than willing to step up and DM their own game. So, that's an exciting prospect to look out for. And honestly, I just can't wait until I'm able to. Until I'm able until I'm able to get back together with this group and run the second session. So that's going to be my first campaign diary. It's a very short and simple one. And I hope that folks who are just coming in to D&D as a DM, they pick up the Essentials Kit if they ever get the opportunity. I think Target is currently sold out of the Essentials Kit, which is unfortunate, but you can pick it up brand new on October the 3rd, I think it was. So, that's something to look forward to. The Essentials Kit is the adventure that comes with the Essentials Kit is excellent. It's great, easy for first timers. That's basically what it's meant to be. It's supposed to be the replacement to the starter set. Although the Dragon of Icespire Peak guidebook does tell you that you can mix in stuff from Lost Mine of Phandelver, which is great. It gives you extra options. And then it also gives you some suggestions as to where to go from there after you complete the adventure. I'm not really entirely sure how I want to continue the adventure after this. I've given the players options that if they want to continue playing with their characters, they can. I'm more than likely going to be doing a homebrew campaign in the same setting in Forgotten Realms by that time, or I might elect to use a predetermined module. I don't know, I might do Storm King's Thunder, or I might do Curse of Strahd, or anything like that. No telling. But for right now, that's going to be pretty much all I wanted to talk about. You folks are more than welcome to like and subscribe. I'm not going to beg you to. But I hope to see you again next week. I'm probably going to make these campaign diaries more frequent as I do more DMs, as I DM more sessions. So take care and have a wonderful day.